This is just the beginning, Gerald.
You fired my father for trying to save my life. Do you remember that, Gerald? The old man's coffee cup shattered on the marble floor. The boy he once called a beggar's son was now signing the papers that would take his company away forever. 15 years earlier, Marcus Doyle was just another warehouse worker at Thorne Industries, a quiet man with calloused hands and a 5-year-old son who filled every ordinary evening with reasons to keep going despite the exhaustion. That morning, Marcus's phone buzzed violently against his workbench, his ex-wife's voice cracking with terror on the other end. "Eli collapsed at school. They think it's his heart. You need to come now." The world outside the warehouse suddenly felt impossibly far away. Marcus sprinted toward Gerald Thorne's office, breath ragged, desperation raw in his throat. "My son's in the hospital, sir. I need to leave now." Gerald didn't even glance up from his ledger. "Shift ends at 6. Rules apply to everyone, Doyle. No exceptions." "Please, Gerald. He's 5 years old." The plea hung uselessly in the sterile air. Gerald finally looked up, cold and unmoved. "Leave this building right now and don't bother coming back tomorrow." Marcus left anyway. He never once regretted that choice. Eli survived that night, a fragile heart condition stabilized by emergency surgery, but Marcus's termination letter arrived by mail 3 days later, stamped and impersonal, ending 7 years of loyal labor over a single afternoon of desperate fatherhood. With no severance, no references, and a mounting stack of medical bills, Marcus took the only work available fast enough, collecting scrap cardboard and paper from alleyways behind grocery stores, sorting it by hand into a rusted shopping cart before dawn each morning. Every evening, Marcus counted crumpled bills at the kitchen table by candlelight, calculating exactly how many dollars separated Eli from another week of school supplies, medication, and the fragile normalcy Marcus fought desperately to preserve for him. "Dad, why do we always look through the trash?" young Eli asked one bitter winter morning, his small hands red from the cold. Marcus knelt down and answered gently, "Because sometimes, son, treasure hides where nobody bothers looking twice." Marcus never let Eli see the exhaustion carved into his shoulders or the hunger he quietly ignored so his son could finish every meal. Each night he read secondhand library books aloud by flashlight, insisting education was the one inheritance no one could ever repossess. A retired schoolteacher named Adeline, who lived above the corner bakery, noticed young Eli devouring donated books on her stoop each afternoon and began quietly tutoring him in mathematics, refusing every offer of payment Marcus tried desperately to insist upon. A community college professor named Desmond, moved by Eli's relentless questions during a public lecture on economics, began quietly mailing him second-hand textbooks every few months, never once suspecting how far that small act of generosity would eventually travel. By 17, Eli had taught himself advanced business theory from library corners and donated journals, working nights at a diner to help Marcus with rent while quietly filling out scholarship applications neither of them dared believe could actually succeed. The acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday. Full academic scholarship to the state's top business program. Marcus read it 3 times on the front steps before he finally allowed himself to cry. 17 years of quiet sacrifice suddenly justified in a single envelope. Eli graduated top of his class 4 years later, built a modest logistics startup from a borrowed laptop and Adeline's old kitchen table, and within a decade had quietly acquired 3 failing companies, each one restructured with a fairness policy he insisted was non-negotiable. When Thorne Industries collapsed under mounting debt and outdated leadership, quietly bleeding shareholders for years, Eli's acquisition firm submitted the winning bid without hesitation, recognizing the company's name the instant it crossed his desk that morning. Gerald Thorne, now 71 and desperate to save what remained of his legacy, had no idea the new owner scheduled to meet him that morning was the same small boy he'd once dismissed as an inconvenience, standing in his office doorway 15 years earlier. When Eli walked into the boardroom, Gerald extended a trembling hand automatically, muscle memory from decades of practiced authority, entirely unprepared for the moment. Eli simply said, "You fired my father for trying to save my life. Do you remember that, Gerald?" The coffee cup shattered against the marble floor as recognition finally crashed over Gerald's face. 15 years collapsing into a single unbearable second, the beggar's son from his office doorway now holding every remaining piece of his company's future. "I could destroy this company out of spite, Gerald. I've earned that right twice over." Eli's voice stayed level, terrifyingly calm. "But my father taught me something you never learned. Cruelty is easy. Restraint is the only thing that actually proves your character." Instead of dismantling Thorn Industries out of long overdue revenge, Eli restructured it completely, personally rewriting every policy that had once allowed a desperate father to be discarded over a single afternoon of impossible, unbearable choice. He created a permanent policy guaranteeing paid emergency leave for any employee facing a family medical crisis, named quietly after his father, a small brass plaque installed outside the same office where Marcus had once been turned away without mercy. Gerald Thorne kept a small consulting role at the company, by Eli's own quiet insistence, understanding that people rarely become cruel overnight. They erode slowly under pressure. Nobody bothers to notice until the damage becomes permanent and irreversible. Marcus, now 61 and finally retired from a job Eli had arranged for him at the very same warehouse, attended the company's policy launch ceremony standing quietly at the back, refusing every attempt to bring him forward onto the stage. Eli found him afterward near the exit, wrapped him in a long embrace, neither of them rushed, and whispered, "Every treasure I ever found, Dad, was because you taught me to look where nobody else bothered looking twice." Marcus simply held him tighter. Never assume the man collecting cardboard from a cold alley has nothing left to build. Sometimes the smallest, most overlooked sacrifice is quietly raising the very person who will one day hold your entire legacy in his open, unforgiving hands. Thank you for watching.